If I asked you who your favorite SpongeBob character is, most of you would probably say SpongeBob himself, right? Or maybe Patrick, or even Squidward, since a lot of us seem to relate more to him the older we get.
Wake me up when I can.
But to me, while SpongeBob is my favorite character, I don't think he is the best or most interesting character on the show. Instead, that honor goes to Mr. Krabs' arch nemesis, Sheldon J. Plankton.
Oh yeah, who's the genius?
It all starts with Plankton's introduction to the show, which was heavily influenced by Doug Lawrence, the voice actor that gives us Plankton's iconic voice.
My favorite!
But what really sets Plankton apart is his development throughout the series, especially in the post-movie era. When Plankton was first introduced to the show in Season 1, in the episode Plankton, he was originally intended to be a one-off villain. He was never planned to have a bigger role in the series outside that one episode. Perhaps this is part of the reason why the Chum Bucket isn't always across the street from the Krusty Krab in Season 1, such as in the pilot episode Help Wanted. But Mr. Lawrence was apparently immediately drawn to Plankton as a character, and he understood the assignment, realizing the single-celled organism's potential as a future star. With that being said, throughout the rest of Season 1, and really the rest of the classic era of the show, Plankton remained a fairly one-dimensional character. Whenever he made an appearance in these early seasons, he was pretty much always playing the villain role. We see this in episodes like Imitation Crabs, Fry Cooked Games, and Plankton's Army. We do get glimpses of what could be a more interesting character in the episode Fun, as he seems to genuinely enjoy SpongeBob's companionship, but in true cartoon fashion, all of that is erased at the end of the episode when it is revealed that he was just trying to steal the formula after all. I mean, that ending wasn't really all that surprising the first time I watched the episode. It was alluded to by the fact that Mr. Krabs was so suspicious of SpongeBob hanging out with him, as well as Karen reminding Plankton what his goal was. But still, this episode showed us that there might be just a little bit more to Plankton than we first thought. That being said, we don't really start to see Plankton become a more fleshed out character until Season 4, after the release of the first movie, which of course signifies the end of the golden era of SpongeBob.
All that glitters is not gold.
I think we can all agree that starting with the fourth season, the quality of the show really started to sink. Get it? Sink? Because they're under water.
Oh, brother, this guy stinks!
Anyways, perhaps the biggest reason for this consistent drop in quality is due to a little concept known as Flanderization. For those of you unfamiliar with the term, Flanderization refers to characters that have been simplified to stereotyped, uncomplicated, bland, and boring versions of themselves. It is the process in which a character has a single personality trait exaggerated to the extreme, becoming so prevalent that all other characteristics are essentially lost. The term comes from Ned Flanders from The Simpsons, who lost all of his personality and depth that he had in the early seasons of the show, slowly becoming reduced to nothing more than an annoying, preaching neighbor.
Dinkelberg.
An obvious example of Flanderization in SpongeBob would be Patrick becoming more and more stupid in recent seasons. I think we can all agree that our favorite starfish has become a parody of himself and how dumb he is portrayed in newer episodes. Obviously, he was always dumb, but that wasn't his entire personality in the classic era. For example, in the Season 1 episode Boating School, he devises and executes a legitimately good plan to help SpongeBob get his driver's license. Sadly, we just don't see many episodes like this for Patrick anymore, or any of the other main characters for that matter. That being said, Plankton has kind of gone in the exact opposite direction. Throughout the classic era of SpongeBob, it would be reasonable to say that Plankton fits the description of a Flanderized character. He was one-dimensional, with basically every story that he played a major role in being one of his plots to steal the secret formula. Of course, this culminated in his role in the SpongeBob movie, where, again, the entire plot revolves around him actually succeeding in getting the formula. After the movie, though, things start to get a bit more interesting. First of all, this is when our favorite single-celled organism officially joins the main cast, with the movie being the first time he is given such credit. As such, he begins to make more and more frequent appearances in episodes starting in Season 4. Naturally, as we start seeing Plankton more often, he starts to become a more well-rounded character with more depth as we start to see episodes where he plays major roles that don't involve him trying to steal the secret formula. The first good example of this is the episode Enemies-in-Law. While this episode does start off with Plankton scheming for the formula like most of his other appearances to this point, it does take an interesting turn when he gets sidetracked by Mr. Krabs' mother. And I mean, you can't really blame him, right? Betsy Krabs is one fine woman. Anyways, Plankton puts aside his desire for the formula to pursue a love interest, despite the fact that he is married, but we'll touch more on that later. This shows that Sheldon does actually care about more things in life than just money and power. And while the episode ultimately ends with him trying to get the formula anyways, it is key to point out that he did not know Betsy was Eugene's mom when he started pursuing her, proving that his interest in her was genuine. Speaking of Sheldon's love interests, this is one of the biggest areas of growth we see from him in the post-movie era. Specifically, his relationship with his computer wife Karen becomes much more complex and fleshed out than it was in the first 3 seasons, where she was more of a sidekick than anything else. Again, this is Mr. Lawrence's direct influence on the show, as he has always been fond of Plankton and Karen's dynamic. During a 2009 interview, he even said, "I want more Karen on the show. The married life of an evil genius is the funniest thing to me." So in that regard, Karen definitely enhances Plankton's stories, making him more than just your typical bad guy. I, for one, am very glad Mr. Lawrence feels this way about the 2 characters because they have provided us with several of the best post-movie episodes, including one of my favorites, Single Cell Anniversary. This is one of the first episodes we see where Plankton puts in serious effort into his relationship with his wife. Granted, he is doing this because she got him the secret formula but won't give it to him until he does something nice for her, but it's still a step in the right direction, right?
Wrong!
What I like the most about this episode is that we see Plankton put a lot of thought and effort into doing something nice for Karen. Yes, there is that anticipated reward that is influencing him, but still, the scene at the end where he sings a song for her is really cute, and I think it shows that he really cares a lot about her. This is a theme that comes up more frequently over time throughout the newer seasons as the writers started exploring Plankton and Karen's characters, as well as their relationship with each other. In fact, Plankton and Karen's relationship dynamic is largely what inspired this video in the first place, and I think I may be exploring it more in the future, so be sure to stick around if you'd like to see that. That being said, Single Cell Anniversary is just the beginning of a long series of episodes focused on the couple. One standout in this area comes in the season 10 episode, Plankton Gets The Boot, where Karen throws him out of the chum bucket after an argument. Sheldon certainly deserved this based on the way he treated Karen in said argument, and at first he refused to admit guilt, insisting that he doesn't need her in his typical stubborn fashion. However, he quickly starts to miss her, as we see in the scene at SpongeBob's house where he pulls out a picture of the 2 of them together as SpongeBob tries to cheer him up. What really stands out to me about this scene is that Plankton admits that he can be a big jerk sometimes and demands that SpongeBob helps him become more nice. It's certainly not perfect, but it is a start, and more importantly, it shows that Plankton cares about more than the secret formula and world domination. He actually wants to be a better partner to his wife, even if he struggles to admit it and needs a lot of help getting there. And while Karen sees right through his pathetic attempt to get her back, she is touched by the fact that he attempted such a silly scheme on her behalf and accepts his apology, if you can even call it that. These Karen Plankton focused episodes are a huge part of why I think Sheldon is the best character in the post-movie era, and there are still plenty more to discuss. One of my absolute favorites, and one where Plankton is genuinely a good partner, is the season 11 episode, Karen's Virus, where he recruits SpongeBob to help him save Karen from a virus parasite thing that is destroying her from the inside out. This episode does a lot of interesting things with the animation and art style that are not typical of the show, but that's kind of beside the point. I thought it was worth a mention here, but obviously the point of this video is to discuss Plankton's character. What we see from him in the episode is that he really loves her, and I know I'm kind of repeating myself a lot here, but this is important. I mean, we kind of already knew this based on his interactions with her from previous episodes, including some of the others I've already discussed, But this wasn't really all that obvious in the classic era. Would Season 1 Plankton have made such a distinct effort to save Karen, or would he have simply replaced her with a new computer? As this episode goes on, Plankton grows increasingly desperate to save Karen as she gets closer to melting down, which again goes to show how much he cares about her. And while he doesn't physically go inside her, we do see this fictional version of Plankton that lives inside Karen's mind. Or her network? I don't really know. Anyways, the fictional version of Plankton does play a key role in saving her, so I feel like he kinda deserves some credit for that. Now, the writers have also explored Plankton as a character by adding new members to his family, most notably his pet amoeba Spot that we first meet in the Season 9 episode, Plankton's Pet. This episode is really just an introduction for Spot, but it shows a side of Plankton that we haven't really seen before. His ability to care and look after another creature that isn't himself. While much of the episode is basically a montage of Plankton teaching Spot various tricks, there are also a couple of very tender moments, such as when he bonds with him over getting squished after he thinks he accidentally unalived him by dropping a tennis ball on him. We even see Plankton shed a tear in that moment, a rather rare display of emotion from him. We also see Plankton break down when he loses Spot in another rare display of emotion. 2 in 1 episode is basically a record for Plankton, and this is why I think he's the most interesting character on the show at this point. This is simply the kind of thing we don't see from Plankton in the classic era. Do we see the same thing from other characters in the main cast? Not really. As I mentioned before, the rest of the main cast has become parodies of themselves. I honestly can't really think of many instances where a character like Mr. Krabs, for example, does something unexpected. Instead, he doubles down on his cheap nature in episodes like Penny Foolish, where he obsessively pursues SpongeBob, hoping to get what he thought was a penny his fry cook found on the street. This isn't to say that all of these episodes are bad. For example, I do kinda like the Season 7 episode Cracked Crabs, where he gets nominated for Cheapest Crab. But when 95% of Mr. Krabs' focused episodes are just him being cheap or fighting Plankton, it starts to get a bit old after a while, you know?
Old man.
We do get the odd episode here and there that is a bit different, such as Season 11 episode Teacher's Pests, which Krabs basically spends fighting Plankton as they try to complete Mrs. Puff's boating school. This episode isn't that different from many other Krabs v Plankton episodes, but at least this one takes place in a unique setting and doesn't involve the secret formula in any way. But I feel like if this is one of the only examples I can think of where Eugene does something different than his usual shtick, that's a pretty good indicator of a Flanderized character, because at the end of the day, this episode is basically just a reskinned Krabs versus Plankton rivalry story. Perhaps the most obvious example of Plankton being an interesting character in the new era doesn't come from any episode at all, but rather the movie Sponge on the Run. After all, the whole plot of the movie revolves around SpongeBob and Plankton working together to get back the secret formula and save Bikini Bottom from the anarchy created by Burger Beard. Even when Plankton had the chance to team up with Burger Beard, or straight up take the formula for himself, he refused, instead handing the formula back to Mr. Krabs willingly. In a sense, this is the exact opposite ending to the first movie, where SpongeBob forcibly takes the formula back from him. For my regular viewers, I do apologize for there being such a long delay between uploads. Last year was kinda tough for me, especially the second half, and I also got a new job, which has kept me busy. Be assured though that I do intend to upload regularly this year as I look to grow this community. Also, you may have noticed some stylistic differences in this video, and that would be because I got my good friend River to edit this one, so everyone tell him thanks in the comments below.
You're welcome.
With that being said, that is the end of this video. If you liked it, please do give it a like. Thank you so much for watching. Take care. I'll catch you next time. And as always, never forget to be yourself.